Should Jeff Ulbrich be facing criticism? Hell yes, absolutely. He needs to be better. He needs to put these guys in better positions. He needs to change things up a little bit. I know we're not really meant to be a blitzing team, but maybe we need to be creating pressure, in some of these third long plays that we keep getting beaten on. The Philadelphia Eagles today, I think they converted on like a 3rd and 19 or something like that. Like that stuff should not be happening every single week to this defense. There's just no excuse. What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ today. It has been a minute. It has been a while, but it is great to be back. Great to be live streaming with you, Chad, talking Jets. So we are back in the fold. Appreciate that, Rick Fisher. I do appreciate it. Rick was one of the, one of the people that reached out to, check in, be like, dude, are you alive? What is going on? I did make a video actually this evening, and I detailed what I've been going through the last couple of weeks or so. Nothing crazy, nothing dramatic, but we will not waste any time talking about my life. Chad, how are you doing, man?
I can't complain. I mean, we'll get into today, but I mean, all in all, things aren't that bad. I got my Christmas shopping done. I actually left. The good thing, when you know you're going to lose, when you know your team doesn't play in the second half and there's no chance of ever coming back, you can leave 5 minutes early and go to the store before they close. So,
oddly enough, my brother sent out a text in my family's Jets chat thread or whatever in the iPhone or whatever, and he said game's over. He's like, now I can go to the grocery store. So. I feel like as old people we have to move on. Like once the game's over, we got to go and do our daily routines, and so I don't
when
blame
it's
you.
when it's really bad, you can multitask, which I find helpful. I multitask while I'm suffering through whatever loss we're currently watching.
Yes, and we will not waste any time. It is great to see everybody who's in here, and I assume because we haven't done anything on the channel for the past couple of weeks, it'll be a while for people to show up, and that's totally fine. We got Rick Fisher in here, Rodrigo, Grant. It's great to see everybody in here. So, yeah, man, the family is feeling much better. I did not get sick, but my wife has been sick. My daughter is just getting over being sick right now, and honestly that was the main reason. Is our daughter, she's only 3 years old, and she was coming in and out of our room throughout the night for the past week to 2 weeks. So there's been zero sleep in our house. I mean, we have been hours without just not getting enough rest, so we were dog tired. Payo time. Yeah, man. I feel like that's something we should talk about, and maybe we'll start with that tonight, Chad. We'll do a little bit of optimism. He's pointing out Wilson showed some promise today. There were still some people who were pretty upset. I know Grant Rude wasn't too happy with everything that he saw. I saw him on Twitter today. Why don't you give me your takes on what you saw today from Zach Wilson, Chad? Go ahead.
Particularly in the first half, I liked some of the things we saw as far as those checkdowns to Coleman, some of those hits. He looked like, especially with the touchdown passes, it looked like he made his read, he threw it, and that was it. There was one play late in this first half where he had an opportunity to kind of run out and do his Wilson thing, and he didn't, and I thought that was good progress. All in all, it wasn't perfect, because he still had that pretty egregious throw over the middle. He had that one that should have been picked. He tried to fit it into a needle point window, just ridiculously small window. So, I mean, by my count, he could have had 2 or maybe 3 picks today. But I mean, let's call it 2, because every quarterback, almost every quarterback has at least one almost pick
Yeah,
per game.
every game. Yep.
Um, but I thought it was progress. I love the more connection, and that's exactly what this is exactly what we've been saying all year. Is if we're going to have these kind of losses, at least we want to be able to combine the losses with progress from Wilson and the offense.
Yeah, and I I see it similarly. I think I mean I don't want to go on and on because you did a nice job of summarizing, but I thought that he did do a better job of finding his checkdowns a little bit faster. And it's been a while. I mean, it's been how many weeks now? How many games has he played? Like 7, 8 games at this point, something like that.
Yeah,
So at this point, that those kinds of things do need to be sped up a little bit. He does need to have that internal clock telling him, hey, get the ball out, 1, 2, 3. It's got to be checked down. If you're not checking the ball down, it's gonna create negative plays, sacks, hits on you, and all in all, that was one of my bigger takeaways. Is he is starting to look for those checkdowns more so than I remember him doing. And I do still really, really like the play calling. That was another one of my takeaways from LaFleur. I really think he's doing a really good job. Whatever was happening in the first month of the season or so, where people were really quite upset with LaFleur, he really has adjusted. He really has adapted the offense. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to watching in 22 is seeing how LaFleur can build off of what we've seen, even though it has been only a little bit of progress from Zach. He is now going to have an off season with Zach, and LaFleur is going to have an off season to work with him and teach him. So I don't think it can be understated that LaFleur, I think, will be here for sure next year because we have seen the offense improve. And I think that's a really, really good thing that he's not going to be a one and done coach. We got a lot of comments in the chat, so we're going to quickly get to those. Jets gang, he says, Zach looked good. Yeah, short and sweet. I think that's the thing. Like, let's not overanalyze it. We saw in the Houston game, he did not look good. Today, he looked better, and he looked like he was at least a competent quarterback. Using his weapons around him, not overthinking things. I enjoyed watching him play quarterback today. Rick Fisher, he says 2 touchdowns throwing, 1 rushing from Zach. I can't complain about his progression. Yeah, I feel like he had a lot of criticism after that Texans game, and rightfully so, because let's be honest, we didn't get to talk about that game. We can talk a little bit about it since we haven't been on the streams for a while. How were you feeling after that Texans game? Because I got to be honest with you, I was pretty nervous, pretty worried.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know that he did himself any favors in that game in particular. That felt like a game that we probably should have gone the other way, but it just didn't. I mean, I think we had a hell of a defensive performance from that game, and that's what really kind of set it up, which is a rarity. I mean, and you could see what the Texans are doing. I mean, I've been monitoring the draft board really closely. No, I'm not rooting for losses, but I am really monitoring that draft board.
There's nothing wrong with doing that.
Like I'm telling you, man, I don't see us getting above the Texans. I mean, the Lions, I'm glad they won. A few weeks ago, I would have said maybe the Lions have a chance to get another or whatever. Who knows? I don't see that happening now. But the Texans they're bad. I mean, we're bad. The Texans are bad. The Lions are bad. But I think that defense carried us through on that performance.
Yeah, just like a top 10 teams in the NFL, there's like kind of like a tier system. Like there's the really elite teams, there's the teams that are just on the precipice of becoming elite. It's the exact opposite for us. We have those really terrible teams. And then I think the Jets are not in that class. I think we're just a step above that, just barely, obviously, because we beat the Texans. And we play the one game that I'm really looking forward to watching this season before the year ends. I'm very much interested to seeing how we play against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That will be a very telling game. That's one that my wife and I are considering going to. I want to see us win. I want to see us beat the Jaguars. I don't want to lose that football game. They are also kind of on that borderline of like being a bad football team. Um, it would be nice to not lose that football game because I don't necessarily want to lose to a team that's you know basically looking towards next season. I want to win those football games. I want to show that we are making progress and steps towards no longer being like that. All right, the Hex Jet. He says, I thought Zach Wilson played his best total game today. I was very happy with what I saw. We must address defense. It's affecting the development. We can't always be in negative game scripts and develop our offense. This is a fantastic point. And I'll quickly allude to Connor Hughes' tweet. He talked about how the offense, they didn't do much in the second half, which is completely laughable because in the third quarter they had one possession and they had the ball for 70 seconds. No shit, they didn't get a lot done on offense. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I know some people really like Connor Hughes, and I don't hate him or anything like that, but I thought that was such a bizarre thing to say. It's impacting the offense without a doubt. I think correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you don't remember, the announcers said the Jets had gone like an hour and a half without getting a first down. It was like something insane.
Oh, in real time?
Yeah. And it was not just because they weren't moving the ball. It was because they hadn't possessed the ball. So the defense is having an impact. Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about the defense overall? We can get into specific players and coaches and things like that. But, what are your takeaways with our defense right now?
Think about how bad this defense would be without C.J. Mosley. I mean, look, and here's what it comes down to. I mean, it's one man's opinion, but they just simply don't have. We say this every other week. They just don't have that talent on the outside and in the front seven. I mean, I've seen flashes from Quincy Williams. I like him, but I don't know that he's a long-term answer. I mean, they just don't have the guys out there. If he could, Mosley would be making every single play on defense that he possibly can, but he literally can't be everywhere at once. There's 10 other guys that have to be on the field, and that's what it comes down to. And no, again, we still, every week we talk about the desperate need for a pass rusher. We just simply don't have them. And I don't know that we necessarily ever will, but
it feels like that, right?
it really does. It really does. Unless the Thibodeau or Hutchinson drops to us, and even then, there's something about putting on a Jets jersey that just, makes those guys irrelevant. But no, man, like we're rolling out, Gerard Davis, Ronald Blair, and Quincy Williams, and you got to remember that was not the plan back in August. Like, if the plan was not for Ronald Blair and Quincy Williams to be playing this much.
And Shaq Lawson too.
Right, and Shaq Lawson. I mean, we had an entirely different starting lineup that was supposed to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have it, and it's you could talk scheme, and I think there's something to be said for that, but it's a talent issue, I think, more so right now than it is. Does that make me want to go defense with the first two picks, as some are suggesting? No, I'm holding firm on my right guard. On my right guard stance. So when I get the consultation call that I have with the Jets front office, I'm gonna let them know my thoughts on it.
We are gonna talk about Jeff Ulbrich tonight. I did make a video this evening, and it's right on the screen right now. Should Jeff Ulbrich be on the hot seat? It's definitely a topic of discussion. I do err on your side, Chad, that it is a personnel issue. It is we don't have the horses in the stalls to get the job done. There are a ton of people in the chat right now, so this is awesome. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Just shows the loyalty that you guys have, so it really means a lot. I'm going to read all your comments, or I'm going to try to as best I can. If you have not hit the like button right now, I would really appreciate that. We are back. We're trying to get back on a routine every week. We'll be back on Sunday nights. Thomas Cahill, he says, I am astounded that on 3rd and 19, Ulbrich called press man. This cannot continue. I thought that James Lofton did a really good job of showing the replay. They had 3 crossers going on that 3rd and 19 play, none of which were really designed downfield. Like they weren't like, it wasn't like fly patterns or anything like that. They literally just schemed guys open, and our coverage, it was like a big traffic jam in the middle of the field, and one dude just, he got loose. I'm not saying you're wrong, Thomas. I'm just throwing out the fact that it was a designed, not a pick play, but it was like one of those situations where there was so many players all condensed in the middle of the field that the cornerbacks basically just got lost in the sauce. But I'm with you though. Like there has to be something that could be done to prevent all of these 3rd and longs this season. My God. It's like every time we're in 3rd and 10, I'm just like, you know what? They got a pretty good shot to convert this, because it feels like we can't get off the field on 3rd and long, which is supposed to be an advantageous situation, which certainly not the case this year. Joe Campione, he says the Jets don't have the players on defense to run a 4-3, and I think that partly is true. And Saleh talked about that, when he was hired, and throughout the season, he's been talking about how, with San Francisco, with Jacksonville, it took time for them to get the guys they needed to run their schemes. And San Francisco struggled defensively when he was, just installing their defense. So to me, I don't think Goldberg's going anywhere. I know there's going to be a lot of noise for him to get fired. Personally, I don't see it happening, because I know that that's Saleh's mindset, is that they are going to need more time. So I don't see any way that Ulbricht's going anywhere. Bert Dice, he says there's still a bunch of people calling for Zach, LaFleur, and Saleh to be fired. It makes no sense. Saleh is going nowhere. He's not getting fired. If you told me that one or the other had a more likely chance of happening, if you said Saleh or Ulbrich, it's 100% Ulbrich. There's no way they're going to can Saleh after one season. 0% chance. Do you agree with that, Chad? I mean, I have to imagine you do, right?
No, yeah, 100%. And if Ulbricht's going to be in the hot seat, it's not going to be until least after. I was going to say early to mid next season.
Yeah,
I mean, if they get a whole off season under their belt, if they get if they re-up in the draft a little bit, let's say we get a Thibodeau that falls to us, or we get a Hutchinson that falls to us, or something like that, and we get some healthy guys back. We don't have Slew. We don't have a Joyner type injury. We don't have a Lawson type of injury.
A Marcus May.
A Marcus May type of injury. Then yeah. But no, I can't make him the sacrificial lamb yet. I mean, I know everybody wants to right now, but it's not going to happen. It just we knew it was going to be like this. The next, we knew that it was going to suck. The next 5 weeks are going to suck, and then we're going to sit back over the next, over the 6 months after that and be able to look at it in its totality.
And listen, I know the wins aren't, we're not winning as many games as we want to. I think that the hardest part that fans have is the blowouts, like the double-digit losses. I think that's where people really start to get angsty. If we were in tight football games most of the time, I don't think anybody would be complaining. But again, we are still building, and again, the 22 offseason is completely loaded with assets, cap space. I think I read a report today that the cap is going to jump from like 180 million, some odd million, to all the way up to 200 and some odd million. So there's going to be a boatload of cash. I think Joe Douglas is going to be more aggressive than he was this past offseason, So that could be trading to acquire players. It could be trade ups. It could be trade backs. Like, I think he's going to make a ton of moves this offseason to make the team better now and in the future.
Let me ask you this: is that why you also think that winning late in this season matters, because it's more attractive to potential free agents?
I don't want to lose. Every single game, I want to win them all. And if we were to go 6-11, and we were out of the playoffs, but we worsened our draft pick, I do not care. Joe Douglas needs to hit on the picks that we ultimately end up with, and There's just too many good players that you see throughout the entire league's history where you can find players all over the draft board. You got to find the players. And so I don't really care about our draft positioning right now. I know people really want Hutchinson. I know people really want Thibodeau. And that would be great. But I'm not going to sit here and root for it for us to lose to get those guys because there are other players that can fill that need, that role. They just have to find the right guys. DSMY73 says we lost a very winnable game today. Secondary killed us today. And honestly, the refereeing today, I don't know how you guys felt. And Chad, maybe I'll let you talk a little bit about that as well. The refereeing was definitely suspect at certain times. Not the whole thing. Like, I think some people were really upset about them overturning that fourth down stop where Minshew had QB sneaked and they overturned it. I thought he was short. I didn't think he got that. But the pass interference on Bryce Hall I thought was super tic-tacky. The blindside block by Mims was ticky-tacky. There were a number of things. The interesting play was the one where it was Kelsey, the center, where they tried to get the Jets to jump off sides. Kelsey was moving. His head was moving. He was leaning forward, the center. And Robert Saleh lost his ever-loving mind when they did not call that a penalty. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to go to the chat because the chat is a mile long.
I thought there was also a non-call again on the hit on Zach Wilson. I thought that was a helmet to helmet. I thought that was a non-call, and I thought that was some BS.
Drove him into the ground too. Drove him right into the ground.
I hate seeing my quarterback get pummeled like that. I hate it. I can't stand it. So, but what can you say? I think officiating has been bad everywhere this year. I think it was bad just now in the Ravens game that had a very, very fun ending.
Yeah, a lot of people are upset with officiating. I think that's always the case, but it seems like fans across the NFL are pretty tired of, the bad calls, the missed calls, all of these things. Jason Rhodes, he says, Hall played a pretty good game, I thought. Yeah, I have no problems with Bryce Hall. I still do think that there are times where he's in position to make a play on the football, potentially an interception, and he just, for whatever reason, he just doesn't really seem to put himself in a position to try to catch it. Like today, there was that ball that Minshew threw. It was down the field. Bryce was in perfect condition, never really turned his hips. And he only really went up to just knock the ball away, which is totally fine. I get that. He's trying to play it safe and get the ball away because it could have been a big play. But the ball was thrown short. He could have intercepted it. That's the one thing I think he needs to work on is getting his hands on the football to potentially turn it over. But I have no complaints with Bryce Hall. He's been one of the bright spots on defense without a doubt. Joe Campione, he says that we don't have a linebacker or a safety who can cover. I think that's completely in bounds. We do need speed in the secondary, and in the video that I made today, I talked about the need for linebackers and safeties. Like, that's the two big holes on our defense right now. Of course, we could use a cornerback. Of course, we could use another edge, but we do not have enough speed and coverage ability in the back end. And I think that until we get that, we're going to see first halves where quarterbacks complete all but like two passes, we're not covering well enough. All right, let's keep moving here. Oh, Jets Gang, he says, we need Hamilton and Sauce in the first round, fix the secondary. Let's talk a little draft because that's coming, man. The draft is going to be a very popular topic on this channel in the coming weeks. Kyle Hamilton, I believe that's his name, right? Kyle Hamilton, am I saying that right? From Notre Dame? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton, absolute stud, ball hawk, can cover all over the field, can hit, can make plays on the football. Sauce Gardner out of Louisville, I believe. He's another guy. Or maybe it's not Louisville. I'm sorry. Is it Cincinnati? Bearcats? I can't recall which school. Regardless, two good guys in the draft. I've done very little research, as you can tell. But what are your thoughts on going double secondary, maybe a safety and a corner? I know you're not going to like that.
No, no, I'm against it. I know that, I'm still at the point where we're talking. I'm talking positions and not necessarily players,
Uh-huh.
but I'm okay with particularly a pass rusher or somebody in the secondary uh, with that second first round pick. But I want a guard or a center to anchor the O line. I got to say this, and maybe this part's going to be controversial. I don't. I'm not a believer in Mekhi Becton right now. Okay, I'm sorry. I know. I know. I'm sorry. I don't like
We
it. Do we have any indication that Mekhi Becton is going to be able to be a long term starter? I mean, I don't I want it to happen. I don't want to be misunderstood. I want it to happen, but we had the injuries last year. We have the injuries this year. I know he's active on Twitter and stuff, but is there, if we're being 100% honest, all the cards on the table, can we really sit here and say, hey, Mekhi Becton, he's our guy for the next 10 years? Do I want him to be? Yes, of course. But here's the thing. I mean, and outside of that, um, I love Vera Tucker. And by the way, that the Jets, what's the YouTube show they have called One Jets Drive?
Yeah, yeah.
I originally, when I started watching that, I was mad because I was like, why is Vera Tucker breaking down the team? Like, this is what I'm talking about. Where is the veteran leadership? I was like, this is ridiculous. But then again, you saw that moment where Moore threw his helmet and Vera Tucker came on. He's like, hey, we don't do that here. That's not us. I love that. I love that. I want to pair Vera Tucker with somebody either in the center or on the right side just as good as him. And I want to have a dominant O line. I believe in dominant O lines. I believe that dominant O lines create winning teams. That's what I want to see happen. Yes, we need a pass rusher. Yes, we need coverage. And I know there's just so many holes to fix. It's not going to happen all at once. But um, no, in simple answer to your question, no, I can't go to defense with the first round.
Yeah, I don't think so. I certainly can't go too secondary. I think if we're going to go defense, I would prefer a linebacker or an edge player. Um, I certainly don't mind the idea of Kyle Hamilton. I don't. I'm not going to sit here and say no way am I taking him. My only concern is the position that he plays, which is safety. I know he's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. People are saying that he can kind of move all over the place, play a sub linebacker position in nickel packages. That sounds good. We certainly could use the coverage ability that he has. Um, but the conversations you just threw out, there's a lot to chew on there. So first, I want to go to the chat, and then we'll talk a little bit about Becton, because I don't think you're alone, by the way. I don't know if I see it the same way, but you're certainly not alone. There's a lot of people who agree with you. Mike Rubino, he says, Seahawks win hurt me more than the Jets loss. There's some truth to that. I was kind of PO'd when the 49ers did not convert inside the 5-yard line to end the game. Burnt Dice. He says, drafting O-line in the first makes no sense to me. No team in the entire league has 3 first-round picks on the line. The most are the Falcons with 2. The line matters less now, more than ever, with the quick passing game that the Jets implement. I gotta say, he's making a lot of sense, and I'm not gonna sit here and say I wouldn't be excited if we took an offensive lineman in the first round, but I do love the part that you mentioned there. There aren't a lot of teams. In fact, he's saying there are 0 teams that have invested 3 first-round picks in their starting offensive line, and when you consider the fact that if the Jets did take another offensive lineman, that would be then 3 first-round picks in 3 seasons invested in the O-line. I don't see it as a situation where we can't get really good offensive linemen in the draft without spending a first-round pick. Like, we can find those guys in the 2nd through the 5th rounds. The Chiefs, they got an awesome offensive lineman, 2. They got the center from Oklahoma. They got Trey Smith from Tennessee.
I wanted that guy.
I know you did.
I wanted that guy so bad.
A lot of people wanted him.
And you know what? He's doing great.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
Yep. And so he fell. Like that guy fell in the draft. Trey Smith fell in the draft. And I'm not saying that every year there's going to be some stud in the middle rounds, but personally, I think at this point, we have to count on Elijah Vera Tucker to be the leader of that offensive line. We have to count on Mekhi Becton coming back. And finding more depth for the offensive line, I think, is more important than drafting another, like, stalwart. Like, we need depth at the offensive line because those guys do go down with injuries. And getting some more in the mid-rounds, to me, is the safer choice based on the fact that we have a million other needs aside from the offensive line.
But here's okay. But speaking of safer choices, is it more likely? And you're talking about us, and that's the thing that you have to understand. Is it more likely that you're going to get, the defensive end from Michigan, and as soon as we sign him, he disappears? Is that more likely, right? Or the guy from Notre Dame, and he pulls. Well, what was the guy's name from Louisville that we had back in 2014, first rounder? What was his name?
Calvin Pryor.
Right, and then he pulls a Calvin Pryor. Is that more likely, or is it more likely that a first-round O-line is going to totally pull a Vlad Dukas and fade off? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, if I want the higher guarantee that it's going to be successful, and I think that you're going to get that more so with the O-line. I mean, I don't have the stats on this to back this up, and maybe we could pull this up, but like, how many first-round O-line busts are there compared to defensive end first-round busts and stuff like you know what I mean?
You think it's a safer choice? I got you.
Right. We're in a position of need, and it's there, and I say that you take it.
Yeah. All right, we got to talk about Jeff Ulbrich now. I've kind of put it off a little bit. So, Rodrigo Costa, thanks for throwing this in the chat, dude. He says, do you guys see a scenario next season if Ulbrich gets fired, Saleh would take over the defense? He says that would be awesome. Why don't you go first, Chad? I have an opinion, but I'll let you go first.
No, if Ulbrich is on the hot seat, I don't see it happening until, again, like maybe the middle of next season.
No, he's saying if he were fired, like no discussion about whether or not he will be. If he were fired, would you like to see Saleh take over?
No, because, and I said this weeks ago, and it's true, we wanted Saleh to be the head coach of the entire team. That's what he said he was going to be when he came. That's what we should stick to. This idea, because we did the same thing with Rex Ryan. This idea that Saleh's going to take over the defense, and now he's going to work on defense, and then what happens? Let's say we have success with that. LaFleur leaves. He gets a head coaching job somewhere, right? And now we're starting all over again on offense. I don't like that at all. No, stick with the game plan.
Yeah, we're not trying to take a crap all over your idea here, Rodrigo, but I would agree with Chad here. I don't want Saleh to change who he initially planned to be. I want him to be the CEO. I still envision him eventually being a Bill Cowher type of head coach, fiery, bombastic on the sidelines, a leader, and the whole team, not just the defense. And I think when you have a coach who is responsible for play calling, you lose some of that. And I'm not saying that there aren't great head coaches that do call plays, because there certainly are. The one that always comes to my mind is Sean Payton. He's an excellent head coach, and does call plays. But mostly, I don't want Saleh to change his game plan. I want him to be what he said he was going to be. Stick with the plan. Don't change it. I still think Ulbrich, Saleh, and LaFleur, all three, will be back. But the defense has been tough, man. It's hard to watch because, you look at the stats from today's game. We're not putting up very much of a resistance here against the run. Miles Sanders, 24 carries, $120 with a 5-yard per carry average. Kenneth Gainwell, the Memphis running back, who we really liked on this channel. 12 carries, 54 yards, 4.5 a pop, touchdown run. We did not stop the run very well today and haven't all season long. It's been an issue, all year. We've been struggling to stop the run. And so I don't see it as a coaching issue entirely. I would say that some of the blame has to go on Ulbrich because there have been scenarios where he hasn't done a good enough job. But the deck of cards that he was dealt, or the hand of cards that he was dealt, has not been good. Not good
Can I
at
ask,
all.
even though they got embarrassed? Okay, embarrassed is a strong word, but I don't know if you saw any of the Georgia game yesterday, but what would you think about Jordan Davis, the D tackle? If they took a D tackle in the first round, I mean, how would you react to that?
I don't know Jordan Davis from anybody. I don't know who Jordan Davis is. I know Georgia's loaded with defensive talent, though, because they were one of the best defensive teams in college football. I am not interested in a defensive tackle. No, thank you.
He's a monster D tackle. I'm gonna look up his stats, but he's just an absolute mammoth of a human being.
Depending on the round that he would be projected to go in, I guess, but we have bigger fish to fry. I think, our run defense, I don't think is a defensive line issue. For a while there, I was wondering, I was like, man, this defensive line was supposed to be so great. I think they're getting the push. I think that the guys behind them are not doing their job. I really do see it that way because there were times where our defensive line was pushing the offensive line back, and still the running game, they were going 8 yards a pop. So it's interesting. It would be interesting, I should say, to get into the film and really see what's causing the issues with this running game or with this run defense. I'm sure that the coaching staff has been painstakingly studying it to try to fix it. We got an interesting question here, and we will go to this. This is from NY Jets Florida. It's good to see you in the chat. He says, how about moving down with both first-round picks? Let's start with just moving down in general in this first round of the draft. You can tell me if you would do it with both, but would you do it at all? Would you move down in this draft? It's hard to say because we don't know the compensation necessarily, but why don't you go ahead and spitball it? Would you consider moving down with either the Seattle Seahawks first rounder or with the Jets?
Oh God. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes right now without knowing, any of the other details. I mean, this off season is going to be all about acquiring assets, and I mean that's the way you do it. But I would really, again, I'm going with that safe pick. So give me that guard or center that I want at, or maybe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm just trying to think. Maybe we take a star. Maybe we take your star edge rusher. Maybe Hutchinson falls to let's call it number 4 or 5 for the time being, and then we move down with Seattle's pick. You got to give me my center and then potentially my right tackle there. And I don't want to hear anything about it.
Yeah. I like it, man. You have conviction in it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the glorious thing about doing this online and having a platform is being able to talk about it. Tommy R, I hope so, dude. I think we're good, though. We're in the clear. My daughter's starting to get healthy again. That has been a pain in the rear end, if you could imagine a 3-year-old coming in your room at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., and then finally at 6:30 a.m. when you were originally supposed to wake up for the first time. It's been a long haul waiting for her to get healthy, but I think we're doing better in that regard. So I made a video too for the first time today. It was really nice to get back to doing that. So I hope you guys check it all out. We have a bunch of people in here. If you have not hit the like button on this stream, would really appreciate the support if you guys could hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We are going to do our weekly Sunday post-game shows the rest of this season. And then we will shift gears. We will move back to our Wednesday streams in the off season. And I know a lot of people were quite mad at me for putting that on hold. The Wednesday streams will be back once the season is over, and we will get to all the draft talk. So if you are a off-season junkie like we are, come aboard, and we will be doing live, mock drafts on the show. We'll be doing, some discussion about what kind of free agency, moves we want to make, what we want to see from Joe Douglas, and in terms of trades and things like that. So we're really just glad to be back here and talking with you guys. It's a ton of fun to do. Burnt Dice, he says, you also sacrifice the rest of the team when the rookie O-line contracts are up. You sacrifice the entire team to pay the high drafted O-line. And I think what he means by that is you're not going to be able to pay three, if you hit on all of them, you're not going to be able to pay three premier offensive linemen. It's just not in the cards. That's been one of my other arguments against it. I will say I was on board with taking an offensive lineman in the first round. I got to say, I think I'm off of that now. I think I am. I think I've moved on from the idea of taking an O lineman in the first round specifically. I don't think that we can do it. I don't think we can afford it. There's just too many other needs. And again, we got to count on Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker to pan. We need them to pan out.
But what about the right? I mean,
I know the right side. I know you're really worried about it.
Yes.
We can still draft offensive line. I'm not saying no to offensive line. I just don't want to do it in round one.
Hey, you know what we haven't, and I'm sorry because we're talking about draft. Hey, you know what we should draft? How about a GD kicker? How about a GD kicker? Come on, man.
We got to talk about this now. Why
didn't we take the guy from Miami that was sitting right there in round 5, and then he was sitting there again in round 6, and we were like, no.
Jose Borregales. I know. We said his name, I think, in every single live mock draft that we did on the channel. I mean, literally every single time we mocked him with our last pick every time. Dude, I don't know. There is a chance that they draft somebody, but I would rather they go the veteran route with the kicker. We saw Nick Folk kind of recreate himself, and he's like, he's come back and he's doing very, very well this season. I don't know if you've seen that, but Nick Folk is killing it for the Patriots. Get a veteran in here. We've taken 2 swings on young guys who have never kicked in the NFL before, and it ain't working. It's not working. It was painful to see Kessman miss 2 extra points today and then never kicked again. They never allowed him back on the field to kick a field goal or an extra point. Let's see. Tony G, he says, we have so many holes. We really can't go wrong on who we select and where. Trade down. That late first rounder and second rounder is a sweet spot. I never did answer that. I would trade down with one of the first rounders, NY Jets, Florida. I don't think moving back with both is going to be realistic. In a perfect world, would trading back with both those picks be good? Absolutely. I think that would be sweet, because likely we would be getting picks in the 23 draft. And that's actually what I'm after. If we can trade back with one of those firsts and acquire another first or maybe even a second round pick in the 23 draft, I think that's money, because Joe Douglas is clearly hitching his wagon to building the team through the draft. And if you can acquire picks in the future, I think I'm all on board with that.
So if that's the case, what's your dream scenario, assuming you trade down with the Seattle pick and you end up with 3 first rounders? So what's your dream scenario there, just position wise?
Well, we wouldn't have 3 first rounders.
What's your two first rounders there?
I mean, I'm on the train of thought that we probably do need to heavily address defense. I mean, it's one of the worst defenses that the Jets have ever had in their history. I think that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't draft offensive players. Like, we can still go aggressive on offense in the draft, but we should be getting that high-end talent, premier talent on the defensive side of the football. And so, in my opinion, you got to go ahead and get two studs in the first round. I think you might want to go get yourself a linebacker that can run and cover, and I think you might want to consider getting yourself an edge player to create more pass rush. I know a lot of people are really tickled over Bryce Huff, and I'm not saying I don't like him, but realistically, he's probably a situational pass rusher on most teams in the NFL. We should not be relying on him as a source of consistent pass rush. So we need another edge. I don't want to see Shaq Lawson starting for us next season, and I don't want to see, Jonathan Franklin Myers. I feel like he should be, being moved around the defensive line. He can play inside. He can play outside. He shouldn't just be on the edge. So getting another edge guy. Hopefully, our boy Carl Lawson can come back. So that's my thought. Get some defensive studs in here. We can still draft offense. You could go double offense in the second round. You could go offense in rounds 3 through 6. You can make improvements to the offense without drafting in the first round. And so that's my mindset. NFL chaos with Jeremy Cravat, I believe. Love the picture. My God, the sack exchange. Pretty cool stuff there. He says, I am fed up with the excuses of execution. We were down by 2 scores and continued to let them run on us playing a 4-2-5 defense. That is bad coaching. Hot take. I like it. How much of a blame are you giving to Ulbrich? We haven't really gone over that. I know we're saying we're going to keep him, and I know we're saying he doesn't have the horses. How much blame are you willing to give to Ulbrich? Because it's very divided, as always, with most topics. Some people are in our frame of mind. They want to keep him because they don't think that the talent's there. But then there's the people like Jeremy and many other people that are just like, you know what? The coaching job that he's done is not good enough. So how much blame are you willing to put on him?
Not enough to, I guess not enough. Not as much as the average right now. You know what I would need to see? I would need to see okay, remember when, like, in weeks 1 through 5, when the offense was on the hot seat, and we were talking about getting rid of LaFleur, before week 6, and we were doing these breakdowns, and people were posting these breakdowns of like these awful schematics where nobody was getting open before the first down marker and all this kind of stuff. I would need to see the same kind of thing on defense. I know we've had some bad coverage, structural scheming on the defense. I would need to see that on a regular basis for people to say, like, hey, look, this is really bad. It's inexcusable, regardless of the move to the 4-3, regardless of it taking a while to make this happen. I would need to see hard data in order to kind of go against him at this point. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, as frustrating as it is right now.
Yeah. No, he's not blameless, and I think that's the thing. Like, we see that there's been some rookie mistakes from him, if you will, as a first-time DC. I am fine with them using this year as a learning, like a way to learn. And I think that we saw that with LaFleur. Maybe LaFleur adjusted a little bit faster than maybe Ulbrich has, and he's learned to be a play caller better, whatever it may be. I'm not prepared to move on from Ulbrich, and I do give him some blame. I'm not going to say he's blameless, but I just can't go that route when we've got Quincy Williams, who we picked up off the scrap heap. We've got that safety who I can't remember his name, the kid that was from New York, and they talked a lot about him on the broadcast today. Do you know his name? The backup safety that we now have starting?
Isaiah Dunn?
No, he's the corner. Regardless, we have a bunch of guys who probably wouldn't play on most defensive teams in the NFL.
Right, but that's the thing. So we're saying that Ulrich is progressing less than LaFleur. But if you had to just compare the two from a talent perspective, wouldn't you say that the defense as a whole is much less talented than the offense?
Without a doubt.
So it's like, look at what we're working with everybody who's not named, Quinnen Williams, Jonathan Franklin Myers most of the time, and Mosley.
Yeah.
I'm
with you. I'm totally with you. We don't have any disagreement with this one. Elliott Spencer, thank you for joining us. It's great to see you. Thanks for the comments and the checking in with us. I really do appreciate that. He says, my point of view on the NYJ Today question, he says, if you make a change for 22 and there are still problems, well, then you made the wrong change. And if you keep Ulbrich and things don't improve, that's worse in his opinion. So essentially he's saying if you sit on your hands and it's just as bad, if not worse, that could be ugly. All right, let's see. Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate that. She's doing just fine. There was no COVID or anything like that. She just had a really, really bad cold, and it was a coughing thing. She had a lot of issues sleeping at night. Again, we're at the tail end of it now, thank God, because it was a long stretch of not sleeping. So let's see. Longtime Jets fan equals off-season junkie. Yes, we are all off-season junkies, right? Like, we all can't wait to talk about the off-season because it's a chance to turn this around, man. That's really what it is. The Jets fans always want to look for the hope and look for the optimism because that's all we can do. And that's what the off-season brings. It brings a little bit of newfound hope for the future. Braden, he throws in the comment, he says, actually, I know we need 2 linebackers and 2 safeties and 2 tight ends in the draft. We're not going to draft 6 within those 3 position groups, but Braden, you're not exaggerating. You're not wrong. We do need 2 safeties. We do need 2 linebackers. We do need 2 tight ends. We have no depth at tight end. And I know that the injuries have been there, but even before the injuries, their tight end room is just absolutely without any ability or you're not going to strike any fear in a defense with the guys that we've been running out there at tight end. It's just not happening.
These conversations, like, it makes me hopeful to think about what can happen in, like, the first and second round and stuff like that. But then we inevitably start talking about how much we need, and then I'm just like, oh my God, this is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Like, we're never going to like, we're never going to get a tight end and another wide receiver and a right guard and a tackle and then all the linebackers. Like, God, why don't we just trade down and draft everybody?
Just select 30 players.
Yeah.
Super chat from Thomas Cahill. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for the support. He says, Williams got so much more with far less. And what he's referring to is Greg with 3 G's Williams. I'll let you chew on that one, Chad. We've got, again, as always, and everybody's letting me know in the chat, it was Riley, Elijah Riley. Yeah, thank you guys. I do appreciate it. Why don't you chew on that one, Chad? Greg Williams getting more out of the defense before Ulbrich arrived.
I don't know. I don't know that I mean, did he get much more? I mean, was the defense that great? I mean, I think the defensive woes last year were often overshadowed. I'm not I don't know that I mean, I appreciate the insight, but I don't know that I 100% agree with that. I mean, where is Greg Williams now? Do we know?
He's not in the NFL. I would imagine he's probably done as a coach. I would imagine he's going to retire. So, to go back to your comment, Thomas, I don't think that you're way off base because I do think Greg Williams did get a lot out of players, the no names, if you will. Like, he got the most out of his guys. But at the same time, though, this is like the big difference it would be is that Ulbrich is installing a new scheme with a team that had been running the 3-4 for a very, very long time. Whereas Greg Williams had the scheme, had some players that, fit what he wanted to do. But I do hear what you're saying. I think that's the big difference for me is the idea that, Ulbrich is dealing with guys that, a lot of them he did not pick. These are not guys that he selected to be on his defense. So, all right, let's keep moving here. Big Green, he says Jose Borregales is on the practice squad, and he's saying pick him up. You have to think that Joe Douglas would have already made that move if he was going to, right? Like I don't know why he's resisting it, but maybe he doesn't want to use the waiver claim on him. I have no clue. But yeah, we need to make a move for a kicker. I think it's there's no way you're going to roll into next week with this Kessman guy after missing 2 extra points. As unfortunate as that is for him, how can you possibly sell that as a coach, to your team? Like, yeah, we're going to roll with this guy who can't make an extra point. Doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, I mean, if look, I can't imagine what it's like to be that guy and have your first NFL start and then miss back-to-back extra points. But he might catch one somewhere, and I hope he does turn it around, but I don't think it's going to be here. If it's not Borregales, you got to believe there's going to be a new kicker by, Tuesday up at Florham Park.
I can't imagine they don't make another move, which sucks because it would be then 3 weeks in a row with a different kicker. I even saw some people in the chat saying go ahead and just pick up Amendola again. I can't see that happening either. If you let him go once, I can't see why they would go crawling back to him. That would be surprising. I don't know though.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean,
Chad.
I'm sorry, but no, I don't agree. I think we're not in a win and we're not going to be looking at a win and we're in situation. So why not try out a fresh leg? I mean,
they should. They should. Yeah, you're not wrong at all. I just said that I don't think they're going to go with Amendola. That's all. I don't think they're going to go back to him. But definitely they should make a move. It just sucks that they have to, if that makes any sense. So, Blunted Vegas agrees with you, Chad. He says that's the number one priority, getting a dominant offensive line.
Smart guy, this Blunted Vegas, man. I've been saying that every week. Listen to Blunted Vegas.
And it looks like Thomas may also agree. He says Zach's still getting crushed even when he's not sacked. I'll throw this out there, and I'm not saying you guys are wrong, but quarterbacks do get hit. Even if you have the best offensive line in the league, your quarterback's still going to take some shots. I think the offensive line has been adequate, not great. Do they need to get some more guys in here? Absolutely. They definitely do. And every single draft, they should be drafting offensive linemen. Every draft. There's not a single year where you shouldn't be drafting at least one offensive lineman for depth, for development. I think it's very, very important that that's you have a farm system of young guys who you can, count on to play in your system. NFL Chaos with Jeremy. He says Trey McBride in the 4th round would be fine with me. A talented receiving tight end. There's a bunch that I like. I think that Weidermeyer guy out of Texas A&M is available and very, very popular amongst fans. I really like the Ruckert kid out of OSU. That's another one of my, if I'm going to go offense, I'm actually leaning tight end in the 1st round, or if we're trading back. Obviously, we're not going to take one in the top 10. But if we can trade up even from the 2nd round and land one of these tight ends, money in the bank. We need one. We absolutely need a tight end. It is bad stuff going on there. Big Green, he's got a question. He says, where's Yeboah? Yeboah played today, and he had a couple of looks his way. He didn't play badly. Yeboah is an undrafted rookie tight end, and I think he will be on, he'll be part of the team in the offseason. I think he's going to be on the roster. He's going to have to, earn his opportunities, kind of like the Denzel Mims thing. I know it's not the exact same scenario, but he has to do it in practice, and I think that's the similar thing with Mims, is that he's not really doing it in practice. So, these guys, they're not going to just give him opportunities just because they like them or because they're young and they have potential. He's got to be able to do it in practice and carry it over to the actual games. I know a ton of people who really are rooting for and want Yeboah to be great. Of course, that would be awesome. But I just think it's so hard to find those undrafted guys for them to become something. But you're not the only one looking for Yeboah. I know Big Green Bean is a big Yeboah supporter. So you're not alone.
What
Uh,
happened to I'm sorry, what happened to Tyler Croft? Was he I know
and
he went down last week, but was he is he
I have
out
no
with
idea what his status is, but he's injured. That's all I really know. Let's see. I had a comment. Now I just missed it. Where the heck did it go? Let's see. Um, we'll go back to Jim. We'll go back to Jeremy. He said, "Wow, that's a very big comment. My apologies." He says that Jamal trade looks better and better. Definitely could go down as the pivotal move in our rebuild if it all works out in the end. I think it's already working out, and I think you're in agreement with that, Jeremy. The AVT draft pick right now looks like one of the best that Joe Douglas has ever made. Elijah Moore is right in that class as well. Uh, Absolutely. Thank you very, very much, Seattle Seahawks, because we've got a really good player in AVT. It looks like a Pro Bowl guy in the future, and we're still reaping the rewards. We still got more picks coming our way for that trade. So absolutely huge, huge win.
Let me can I because this just came to me. So one last thing on the draft in that first round. Would it be more pertinent to pair from a pairing perspective to pair a stud right guard or right tackle with Vera Tucker, or pair a stud tight end with Moore? Which pairing works out better for us?
We don't have a tight end as that poses any threat at all to a defense. None. Ryan Griffin. Of course, he can make some catches. I'm not saying he's incapable of doing anything. Same thing with Tyler Croft. But these are second and third tight ends on other NFL teams. There's no question about it. And there are some teams where they wouldn't even be on the team. So we are devoid of anybody that puts fear into the defense. And to me, tight end was a huge need going into the draft and in the offseason last season. And it's just as glaring right now. So if you're asking me, I would 100% like to pair more with a threat in the middle of the field, a guy that can make plays, man. And they're rare. It's hard to hit on a tight end. Like that's one of those ones that's risky if you want to ask me on my opinion. But you got to take the risk. You got to find a tight end that can make some plays for Zach Wilson to make his life easier. We've seen Zach kind of have some inaccuracy stuff going on where he's got the ball thrown behind his receiver, maybe thrown a little bit too far ahead of the receiver. Get a big guy out there with big old hands and can high point the ball, can catch the ball, all different, locations. Give me a tight end over a guard in the early second and late first. That makes you upset, I can tell.
I don't. You know what? I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, Joe Campione says that the kicker couldn't even reach the end zone on his kickoffs. Yeah, I saw that too. I think everybody did. I'm wondering if it was in some way. I'm wondering if they almost were doing that on purpose, kicking it right at the line to make them kick return, rather than just kicking it out of the back of the end zone. I have no clue. I would imagine the guy doesn't have a very strong leg if he's not knocking it into the end zone at least. So not very good. Rick Fisher, the kicker situation is mind-boggling. It's pretty bad. And when you consider we had a Pro Bowl guy in Jason Myers, and McCagnon just said, no thanks. No thanks. I don't want stability at the kicker position for the next 5 to 7 years. That would have been too nice. All right, let's go down. We're catching up to our chat, which is wonderful. Let's see. Trade Mims for a pick. We've talked about Mims a lot on this channel, and most Jets content creators have, and myself included. Where are we at with Mims? Are we ready to move on? Are we ready to say we were wrong? Are we ready to say what we saw last year in a really bad offense was more or less just like nonsense? Like, what's the deal? What's going on with Mims? And do you want to move on?
I mean, I have to believe that if he was producing in practice, if he was showing more, he would be getting more looks. I mean, I don't think Corey Davis is the answer. Um,
Ooh.
I mean, right? I mean, he's got a bad drop like at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now he's getting hurt. He's coming up limping. But the point is that if it wasn't for like, don't you think that Mims would have gotten a shot by now if the offensive, if the coaches had faith in him? You know what I mean? Like, um, so I have to err on the side of the coaches and say that like, no, I mean, I guess we're ready to move on from Mims. I mean, we all thought there was going to be something more there, and I guess there just isn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. That's a that's a tough pill to swallow because I was very adamant that no, he's not a perfect fit for the West Coast scheme. Excuse me. But he provides, that outside deep threat ability, and we don't really use him in the way that I had envisioned. And, you know, you're right. And to be fair, he actually had his opportunity today. Like it wasn't like he didn't get on the field. He was on the field today. I don't know. He is one of the most puzzling players on the Jets that we've had in a long time because there was a lot of optimism with him going in the season, and he has just completely flatlined. Go ahead.
Did you see the video somebody posted on Twitter of them doing
Yes,
the
yes,
lap? What
yes.
was your takeaway from that? Because I didn't really know what to make of that.
So I know that some people are like, "Oh, quit it! Like you're overreacting. It's just practice." But I think that those drills and the practice, the effort that you give in practice to coaches is everything. That would be like a classroom, and I always compare it to education because that's my background. But it would be just like a student giving a half-assed effort during instruction. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't help the kid. Of course, I'm going to help the kid to learn, but it would be just as frustrating for me as a teacher to see a kid not give a great effort. As a coach, I'm sure it's probably really rubbing them the wrong way to have a guy that talented. And again, he is talented. Just because he's not making a lot of plays this season doesn't make him untalented. Uh, but I think that's a valid thing to point out, man. He was given a pretty lackluster effort there with that drill, and if you guys didn't catch it, it's the ladder drill. They place like a rope ladder on the ground, and the wide receivers run through it, and they're basically just trying to make sure their feet are moving as quick as possible. And it's footwork. It's a footwork drill, which Mims, they talked about route running, they talked about footwork not, being where it needed to be. And Mims was like basically just like barely moving his feet through it. I think it's fair to criticize him for that. I think there's nothing wrong with pointing out Mims. At this point, we need to be a little bit more critical. And again, I think that again, there's a lot of Jets content creators who are still very supportive, and I am too. I think the talent's there, but there's something amiss, right? Like there's something that's just not right. And I don't see Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur just totally ignoring him if he were doing the right things. So that's my take on it, and that's where my take is going to remain for the remainder of the year. I just don't see that, I don't see it working out. It seems like one of those things where it's like you can see the clues before the result has come. And it looks like it's going to be one of those situations where they're going to maybe potentially shop him in the offseason and move along. Having said that, maybe they keep him. Maybe they make him stay through the offseason and they want to work with him in the offseason and say, listen, this year went really bad, but let's reboot and let's get moving in the right direction. Here's our plan for you. Because don't forget, we're losing Keelan Cole and Jamison Crowder. Very likely Jamison Crowder, potentially Keelan Cole this offseason. Their contracts are ending. So if you're telling me Mims is also gone, then wide receiver goes way up the list as far as the need goes. So I don't know, man. I don't want to be long-winded, but I'm very concerned about the Mims situation because it's not good. To miss out on another second-round pick and a wide receiver, it ain't good.
I would resign Cole if we could.
Yeah, and people are putting that in the chat to re-sign Cole. I think he's definitely one worth re-signing. It wouldn't cost a lot for sure. Jets NY 101, he says, and he gave us a super chat, so thank you very much for the super chat and the support. He says, Bryce Hall said that we didn't prepare for Minshew, shaking my head. The Eagles did a phenomenal job of masking Hurts's availability, and Hurts was in on it, man. The coaching staff, they totally played that perfectly. He alluded to the fact that he was going to play, absolutely going to play. And then by the time Saturday rolled around and they finally announced that Minshew was going to be starting, all too late. They couldn't prepare for both quarterbacks. It's pretty rare that teams will do that. It sucks. It sucks that they weren't able to prepare for Minshew or to plan for him. You have to imagine the game plan that they had for Hurts looked nothing like the game plan that they would have had if they knew that Minshew was going to play. So it's definitely unfortunate. Again, thank you very much for the super chat. Any thoughts on that, Chad, before we move on?
No, other than I don't think that, regardless of what their game plan was, I don't think that they would have done much better against Hurts anyway. I mean, it's our defense we're talking about here.
So Big Green's got a question for you. It looks like he says, okay, Chad, so if we trade him and he goes off, how would you feel about our coaching staff? I guess he's talking about Mimsy right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that before. Sometimes guys, especially young guys, they get disgruntled. They just want to change the scenery, and that could happen. I think it's one of those things that you have to take a risk on. You have to live with.
I think you're right. And there's no sense in keeping him if they're not going to utilize him. And that's coming from somebody that was beating the living daylights out of the Mims drum. At some point, you kind of have to say uncle. I think I'm at that point now where like there's something amiss. There's something wrong. All right. Grant Rude says, when was this drill of Mims giving a half-assed effort? If it was recently, can you really blame him? I'd want out. I think that's also fair. The only thing I'll say is that behind closed doors and, on the practice field, we don't know what he's doing. And so if he's been doing it since the off season, I guess that's where we kind of have to say, like, okay, like we have to trust the coaching staff. We have to trust the regime that's in place right now. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm pretty sure that at this point it's safe to assume there's something wrong with Mims's approach to practice, his attitude, his ability to learn. Something's wrong. We don't know what it is, but there is something wrong. All right. Thank you for that comment. Hit the like button. If you guys have not done that, go ahead and do it right now. And if you're new to the channel, I would appreciate you subscribing. Would really greatly appreciate that. All right. So we're getting close to the end here. Any other comments that you guys have, let us know in the chat and we will talk them over. We can look forward a little bit now since we're getting down to the wire here. We do play the New Orleans Saints next. Is that correct? I don't know off the top of my head, to be perfectly honest with you. While you're checking that, because I think you are, NY Jets 101, he says, I understand that we have a lot of injuries, but to put out this type of defensive performance is unacceptable. Assignments were blown, poor tackling, too much cushion, etc., etc. The worst missed tackle to me was the one, I think it may have been the first or second touchdown to Goddard, where Ashton Davis had a clear opportunity to wrap him up, bring him down, tackle him, and instead he just kind of threw his shoulder into his back, which did absolutely nothing, which is surprising because he's a pretty hard hitter. But just wrap the hell up and tackle him and try to stop them inside the 5 yard line. Like there's crazier shit's happened before. Poor effort on that tackle. Go ahead, Chad.
Ashton Davis doesn't do that. He doesn't do those things. He just runs right into you.
Yeah.
And I mean, in college, it worked great.
Yes.
Not so much anymore.
No.
And yeah, it is New Orleans next week.
Okay. So we'll go to a couple more.
You get a ticket for $23.
We'll go to a few more comments if you guys throw any more questions in there. Before we start to wrap this up, I would love to include you guys in the podcast this week. I am planning to record tomorrow. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that I have time to be able to do that. I think I'll be good to do it though. Would love to include you guys in the podcast. Feel free to call the phone number that's on the screen, 347-921-1468. Leave your takes with the Jets. You can leave takes for this upcoming game. We can start talking draft, off-season, whatever you want. Leave a take for the podcast, though, and I will include you in the show. That's what this is all about. I want to hear you guys and your takes. So if you are interested in doing that, feel free to do so. Alrighty. Grant Rudy says, worst tackle missed goes to Davis. Second worst missed tackle goes to Davis. Third worst tackle goes to Davis. Yeah, he's not wrapping up. No form tackling from that guy. All right. Quick thoughts on New Orleans as they come to the New Jersey area to play the New York Jets next Sunday. What are your thoughts initially for that game, Chad?
Well, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see whoever they roll out a quarterback. I guess we'll find out closer to the end of the week. I would like to see what our game plan is, especially if they play the guy whose name is, as usual, escaping me right now.
Taysom Hill?
Taysom Hill, yeah, I'd like to see that. I like Taysom Hill. I'd like to see him get another chance. Are we going to come close to stopping them? I don't know. I consider this kind of a toss-up game.
If Kamara is out, that's not good for their offense. If Kamara is in, that is really bad for our defense. He's an absolute beast. So Kamara is a factor. He's been out the last couple of games. I would much prefer to face Trevor Siemian. I know a lot of people are really anti Taysom Hill, but he poses a problem for the New York Jets because we do have a hard time stopping the run, and he is a hell of a runner. You know, say whatever you want about him as a quarterback, but he is a definite threat running the football. Yeah. So that's a factor. The biggest thing right now to me in my mind is Kamara. If he's playing, that's going to be really hard to stop. If he's not playing, I give us a pretty good shot in that football game. They do still have a ton of veterans on their defense, which is going to be an issue. Demario Davis is coming home. He's coming back to play against the Jets.
Oh,
I know.
Why did we let him go? Why?
That's right along with Jason Myers. Thank you, Mike McCagnon, for that. Demario Davis will be coming. They have a safety in Marcus Williams. They have a cornerback. What's his name? Can't remember. First rounder.
Wait, are Marcus Williams?
No, they're Marcus. We don't have a Marcus Williams.
No, didn't we let go of Marcus Williams and he got signed by?
I don't think so. I think they drafted him.
Okay.
But they have some good secondary pieces. They also have Cam Jordan, the defensive end, as well. I know he's kind of on the down decline in his career. The Saints are still a good football team, and they are really, really well coached. We talked about Sean Payton earlier. um, it's hard to pick because I need to know what the injury report is, but right now I do give us a chance to win the football game. It's very similar to the Eagles game. I didn't give us a great shot in that football game to win it. I predicted that they would lose. You can ask my wife. I told her. But I think it's going to be a tough one to win, but we can win the football game. It just depends on the health of some of their players, and quite honestly, the health of some of ours. If Corey Davis is going to miss the game, that's not great. We saw Laurent Duvernay Tardif. He went down. If we have Greg Van Rotten out there playing guard for us, that's a problem. So there's all kinds of issues. Tight end, we have a bunch of guys hurt right now. So offhand, if I'm making a guess, I'm going with the Saints in that football game just because of all the injuries we're dealing with. But certainly there's no reason to say that we don't have a chance to win that football game. We have another super chat from Rick Fisher. Really appreciate your support, buddy. It really does mean a lot. He says, prayers to your daughter and your family. Pray that I sleep. That's all you have to do. Just pray that I continue to get a good night's rest like I have the last couple of nights. And I think we're good to go. Yeah, BYU quarterback versus BYU quarterback. Taysom Hill versus Zach Wilson. I would like to hear from you, Grant, regarding Zach in this past game, what some of your thoughts were. Like I said, guys, feel free to call me and leave a voicemail. We'd really like to have that in this podcast. And this will be the last comment that we will do. He says, Jets NY 101. He says, maybe we can win if we can cover a screen pass. It would be an early Christmas gift. You aren't kidding, sir. So tired of seeing us getting burned in the screen game and in third and long situations. That's going to do it for this post-game show. Really hope you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said, if you wouldn't mind, please like this stream. Consider subscribing if you are new. Glad to be back talking Jets with you guys. Chad, do you have any other last few things you'd like to say before we end it?
I appreciate being back and having a lively chat tonight. Thank you all. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great night. Tune in for the next video that gets posted to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Go Jets, and a word from my daughter. Peace.